a certain crochet project absolutely everywhere at the moment and I want to jump on board. So this week I'm going to make the 6-day star blanket from Betty McKnit. I don't know about you, but my TikTok has been filled with people making this blanket, and every day they do a little update, they unfurl their blanket and show you the progress they made, and it's really cute and I just want to get in on the action. So I'm going to start the blanket today and hopefully by the end of the week it'll be all done. It's called the 6-day blanket because apparently you're supposed to be able to make it within the 6 days. So I'm going to time everything I do just so we have a really good record of how long it takes so you can know if it is in fact 6 days. If you want to make one too, have a look at the tutorials from Betty McKnit because they're really helpful. I'll link them in the description below. I want to make my blanket nice and big so it'll fit on my king size bed, so I'll need about 2,000 meters of DK weight or 8-ply yarn. I'm going to go check my stash, see what I got, and I'll be right back. This is what I've got to work with at the moment. I don't really want to go to the yarn store, so I'm going to try and use up what I've got. Hopefully it's enough and hopefully it all looks good together. I've gone with kind of mostly purples and blues with a little bit of maybe burgundy and sort of teals, because I figure if we're making a witchy star blanket, we may as well lean into the color palette, and I reckon it'll look really cute. Some of this is wool. I've got some acrylic as well. I think it should be all right to mix them up together. I'll just maybe be a little bit careful when I'm washing it. I've got a nice bit of mohair, which I think will be good to add some texture. And I've got these cones of wool, but they're a little bit thinner, 4-ply, so I will double them up and hopefully it'll be about the same sort of thickness as the other yarns I've got. This is a fun one too. This is a hand-dyed sock yarn, which I think the colors look perfect for this blanket, and it's got a little bit of glittery gold flecks through it, which will be really nice too. Then I need the crochet hooks. I'm going to start with a 4mm, but the Betty McKnit pattern says that you probably want to size up your hooks as you're working outwards on the blanket so it doesn't curl up at the edges. So I'll probably size up from a 4 in increments up to maybe a 6mm hook, but I'll keep you posted on when I change hooks. I think I've got everything ready now, so I'm going to start my blanket and I'm going to keep you posted on my progress. I'm so excited about this one. I reckon it's going to be really fun. I've been checking the pattern out and I'm actually going to start with the 4.5mm hook because it says to start with a hook one size up from the recommended size for the yarn. And I'm going to start with this darker color because I feel like maybe a darker color in the center would look really nice. So I'm going to get going. I've got my timer and we are going to start it now. I'm at the end of the second round and I'm going to change my colors over, but I do mine a little bit different than how Betty is doing in her tutorial. I always like to knot my yarn. I just find it gives me that extra bit of security. And then I also, when I'm starting with the next color, I like to do a slip knot on my hook. And then I like to join with a standing stitch, either a double crochet or a standing single crochet, whatever stitch that round is going to be. I prefer to do the standing version of it to join on, and I usually work over that yarn tail of the previous round at the same time too. I've changed colors and now I'm doing the round where I'm starting to shape the points of the star. So we'll have the 7 points of the star here. So we've got some granny stitches. So if you've ever made a granny square, you'll probably feel pretty comfortable making this pattern. And there's also some double crochet clusters in the valley of the points as well, which is fun. So I'll keep going. It's looking good though. I'm at the end of round 4 and it's looking really good already. I have noticed though that the edges are starting to curl up slightly when I lay it down flat. So I'm thinking I'm going to switch to the 5mm needle for the next round. Here I'm at the end of round 5 and you'll notice it's starting to curl up again at the edges. So I'm going to switch to the 5.5mm needle for the next round. I've been working for an hour, so it's time for a progress update. How good's it looking? I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I like all the colours together. I think it's almost time to start adding in some of this red so we can get that colour in there too. I'm up to row 7. At row 9, the pattern repeat starts again. So I've got 2 more rows of learning to do, and then after that I should know exactly what I'm doing for, I think, the rest of the blanket. So I'm going to keep going and I'll keep you updated. It's the morning of day 2 and this is what I got up to last night. So I crocheted for 2 hours and I got up to row 10. It doesn't look like the hugest amount, and I'm not sure I'll be able to get it done in 6 days, but I'm holding on to the hope that maybe the first part was a little bit slower going than usual because I was learning the pattern. Now I'm ready to go with the rest of it. The pattern says that row 1 through 9 is the setup phase, and then after this it repeats in chunks of, I think, 9 rows, maybe. I'll check that. I think it's looking good. I like the colors, but I'm worried they're turning a little bit too ice princessy, but I was going for like a darker witch sort of feeling. So I'm gonna add in some navy and some black and some darker purples to see if that'll help tone it down a little bit. I've got a lot of crocheting to do today, so I'll keep you updated on the progress, but hopefully we can get a lot of rows done. I did 2 hours of crochet on day 2 and got to round 16. So this is after 4 hours in total, and it's looking really good. I love how the pattern's working up, and I've gotten to the point in the pattern where the rounds start repeating every, I think, 5 rows, which is great because it means I won't have to go back and look at the pattern. So I think I need to get a lot more done today if I want to get this done in 6 days. So I am going to jump on the couch, I'm going to watch some movies, I'm going to get cozy and do a bunch of crochet. All right, it's day 4 and I think good progress is being made. So yesterday I did 3 hours, so I'm up to 7 hours in total and I'm on round 23. Obviously I've still got a long ways to go, but I'm really happy with how it's going so far. The other thing I really like about this pattern is how the stitches change in the different rows. It just means you've got something interesting to look forward to in the next round. And weirdly, I've got favorite rows that I get really excited for. So the double crochet rows, I find probably to be the least exciting of the lot. The single crochet I would have thought would have been the least exciting, but I'm actually really liking that one because you zoom around the edge really quickly. And of course, the cluster stitches are my favorites. I've always loved doing a granny stitch, so these ones are just really fun for me. And especially the second round of the granny stitches is really good because you've already got that space to work into, which makes it super quick. I'm really enjoying choosing all the colors for this and figuring out what I want to go in the next row. And you can see I've tried to space it out, so I've got the same sort of distance between the different colors. So the greens here, the reds here, the purples here. And I think that really helps to make a project like this where you've got lots of different colors look cohesive. Also, I'm really happy with how the colors are all working together. I think it looks super fun. On this white row, I held my mohair double with some wool, which I think is really nice. It's subtle, but it adds a little bit of fluffiness, which is quite fun. And these cluster row here is my hand-dyed sock yarn, which I think looks really nice as well. I've got a lot to do today, so I'm going to get into crochet on the couch mode and see how much I can get done. I just finished round 26 and I've noticed that it is slightly starting to curl up at the edges when I lay it down flat. So I am going to switch from the 5.5mm crochet hook to the 6mm hook. The last few rounds I have been doing quite loosely, so I think it's the right time to size up. I finished up day 4 after doing 4 hours of crochet, which took me to 11 in total, and I'm on row 30. I measured it before and it's 36 inches across. The pattern says that if you're wanting to do a child-sized blanket, it's 40 inches, so I'll stop at that point and let you know how many hours it took to get to that size. But I'm going to be making the full-size blanket, which is 60 inches across, so I've still got a long way to go. But I am noticing that the rows are feeling like they're taking a lot longer as the blanket gets bigger, so we'll see how we go. I'm still really enjoying making the pattern. It certainly hasn't lost its appeal at this stage, and I think that's partly to do with the fact that it's star-shaped. Going up and down the various points, I think, adds interest in a way that if you're doing a circular blanket, it probably wouldn't. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. So I'm going to get back to it today and keep you posted. I'm even being very diligent and weaving in my ends as I go along. I ended day 5 after doing 3 hours of crochet, and I got up to halfway through round 34. It's looking great, but I did notice last night that my thumb started hurting just a tiny little bit when I was crocheting, so I thought I would have a day off and not do any crocheting, but instead I've got to go to the yarn store because I am running out of some of these colours. Because these yarns all came from my stash, I won't be able to find the exact copies of them, but I'm hoping I'll be able to get shades that are similar enough that you won't notice. At the start of the project, I pulled a whole bunch of yarn out of my stash, but I didn't use all the different colours in there because I wanted to keep my colours pretty consistent throughout the project, only have a set number of colours to work with, and then repeat these throughout the blanket as I worked my way out. I think with changing colours every row, it's nice to have these colours keep coming back into the blanket as you go around to help it look sort of more uniform and consistent, and I think that's a really nice look. So I'm hoping the yarns I get today will be able to be a close enough match so you won't really notice the difference. And that brings me into my next point, in that last night I added in this new purple and I just don't think it's working. It's a little bit more saturated than the other colours I've been using so far, and I think because I haven't used this purple at any point throughout the blanket, it's a little bit more noticeable. So I'm thinking at this point I'm going to undo this half row that I've done in this purple and redo it in one of the other purples that I've already used that's a little bit more toned down. I won't add the time it takes to undo it and redo it up to this point in the time count because I want to keep that time count accurate for you guys so that when you're making your project, you'll know how long it takes from start to finish if you're not making any mistakes and not undoing things. So I'm going to go to Spotlight today, which all crafty Australian people know and love, and I'm going to see if I can find some matches to some of these colours. These are the new yarns that I bought to add into the blanket. I think these 100-gram balls will be good because as I'm working around the blanket now, it's taking a lot of yarn to do around, so hopefully I'll get a few rounds out of these ones. The navy was a great colour match, and this teal was a really nice match for this row here. I also got another white just in case I need that. And I also found these acrylic blends, which I think are really nice. They're very soft and very fuzzy, and I think they'll work in well with the blanket. This is a really good match for this colour here. And this one's a little bit of a wild card. I'm not sure if I'll use this in the blanket because I haven't used this exact shade in it anywhere, so it might look a little bit weird to add it in now, but I love it and I kind of wish I'd used this sort of colour from the start, but I might give it a go and see how it looks. And I know I said today was going to be a rest day, but I think I might just quickly undo this half row and redo it up to this point with one of the other colours. That way I'll be all set up for day 6. It's day 6, I've had a little rest over the weekend and I'm ready to get back into it. The blanket is looking amazing. I couldn't be happier with how it's turning out. I love all the colours and the pattern is just super fun to work with. I'm just having a really nice time making this blanket. But I don't think I'm going to get it done within 6 days. And that is probably because the 6-day part of the name came from Betty McKnit's original blanket, the 6-day kid blanket, which she said she made in chunky yarn and it was toddler size and it made up within 6 days easily. However, this is made in a thinner yarn. It's an 8-ply or DK weight, and also I'm making it adult size, so obviously it's going to take a lot longer to make. But if you see a challenge like a 6-day blanket, you just want to jump into it and see if you can do it, regardless of how crazy it might seem. Also on the size issue, the website says that an adult size is 60 inches across, and I wasn't quite sure on how to measure that. Because it's a 7-pointed star, if you fold it in half, one point meets the valley on the other side. So I'm not sure if I should be measuring that part or if I should measure from the widest point to the widest point on the other side. So I reached out to Betty on TikTok and hopefully she gets back to me and tells me the exact way I should be measuring this so I know exactly how big I should be getting it. But anyway, it's going to be a fun day, so I'm going to jump into it. And I'm not finished yet. Not even close. But I've given it a pretty good shot, so I'm going to keep on going and see how long it takes. I still think timing the hours is the interesting part of this, because how many hours a day you crochet is really such a personal preference. And if I can get a tally of the hours it takes to make the full-size blanket, hopefully that'll help you decide how long it will take you to make the project, depending on, you know, the kind of hours you want to spend a day crocheting. But I would happily spend so much longer finishing this off, because the way it's looking now is amazing, and honestly it's just going to get better and better the bigger it looks. So I'm really excited to see how it looks at the end, but we've still got a couple days to go. I ended day 5 halfway through round 36, which is good. So I'm going to keep going today and see how many rounds I can get done. It does take ages now to get through a round though, because there's so many stitches around the perimeter of the blanket. So for example, this row here, the green row, this is the new yarn that I decided to add in, and I think it works really well in with the mix of other colours, so I'm happy about that. But this row took 45 minutes to crochet, and it used almost a full 50-gram ball of this yarn. All I was left with was this little bit here. But this puts a bit of a spanner in the works, because I was hoping to do a round with this ball next, but I'm not sure if it'll be enough to get me all the way around, and I'm going to be pretty devastated if I get to near the end of a round and run out of yarn. So I was thinking what I might do is I might weigh the ball, crochet 1 point, and then use some mathematics to figure out if I would have enough left in the ball to do the other 6 points of the star. So I'm going to give that a go now and see if I've got enough of this yarn to get me around. I've completed one of the points of the star, and I have 46 grams of this ball left. So I use 7 grams per point, so I'll times that by the remaining 6 points, so it'll take 42 grams of yarn to finish the round off. So I've got 46 grams, so fingers crossed, it works perfectly, unless I've done something horribly wrong with my calculations. I ended day 7 after doing 2 hours of crochet, and I got up to round 39, and Betty got back to me on TikTok, so now I know exactly how I'm supposed to be measuring this blanket, which is amazing news. So she said that when she's making her blanket, she measures from the middle to one of the points and then doubles this to get the measurement, and then when it's all finished, she measures from the widest points on either side. So let's measure this and see how close I am to getting it done. So I've measured from one point of the star to the other, and I am at 56 inches currently. On her website, she says that 60 inches is a good size for the Afghan or the adult size. So that means I'm only 4 inches off, which I think I can get done by just doing one more repeat of these rows here. So from this row to this one. But at the moment, these rows are taking roughly 40 to 50 minutes each to get around the edge. So I don't think I'll be able to get it done today, but probably tomorrow. So far over the week, I've been crocheting for 18 hours to get to this point. So I think I've probably got another 4 or 5 to go, and then it's going to be done. I'm going to jump back into doing some more rows right now. Good morning, it's day 9, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to finish this blanket today. Yesterday I did 3 hours of crochet, got up to row 42, so that means I've got 3 rows to go. And I've already started one of them. And then the final 2 rounds will be a row of double crochet and then a row of single crochet. And I'm going to use the same, I think, purple for both of those rows just to make the border a little bit thicker, because I reckon that'll look really nice. I can't believe I'm this close to the end, and I can't believe how good it's looking already, honestly. I cannot wait to put it on my bed or my couch or just wear it around town, draped over my shoulders, looking fancy. So I'm going to get into it now, and I'll see if I can get it done today. Exciting news, folks. Last night I finished my blanket and it looks amazing. If you're thinking about making one of these, I think you definitely should, because it's such a fun project and the end result is really good. I've got a few tips and tricks that I want to share with you if you are thinking of making one, but in the meantime, the burning question is, how long did this bad boy take to make? So yesterday I did another 2 hours and 40 minutes, which takes the grand total for this blanket up to 23 hours and 40 minutes of crochet time, to get this entire thing done, which I think is pretty impressive. I feel like I crochet at a pretty average speed, so I reckon you could make one in a very similar amount of time if you're using a similar weight yarn. I used a DK weight or an 8-ply yarn, which I think was a really nice choice because A, I mostly had that in my stash, which was great to use up, and B, it gave it a nice drape and feel to it. If you wanted to, you could use a chunkier yarn, which would make it a lot thicker and it would be a lot quicker to make up as well. Also, I documented the process of making this on TikTok every day, which was really fun, and it was nice to get to sort of comment with some people online and have a bit of a chat about the project because there's lots of people out there making it, which is really fun. So if you're on TikTok, be my buddy there. I'll put the link in the description below. And I even did one of those fun unfurling everyday videos of my blanket. Have a watch. So I want to share with you a few tips that I think might help you if you're wanting to make one of these blankets. The first one is, it's pretty obvious, you should be looking at Betty McKnit's YouTube channel and website. So her written pattern is amazing, but if you want to have a little bit of extra detail or if you prefer to learn visually, her YouTube channel has really good tutorials of how to do everything, and it'll really help you out if you get stuck at any point. The second thing is make sure you know what's happening in each row before you start it. So this tripped me up at one point in the blanket and I did make one mistake, and that is the single crochet rows. So the pattern has a repeat block of 6 rows, which is really good because it means you can look at what happened previously to know what row you're on next, which is great. But there's 2 single crochet rows in the repeat block and they are slightly different. Maybe be mindful of that so you don't make the same mistake I did. The third thing I'd recommend is think about what yarn you want to use and try and have it all organized at the start before you start your project. So I was mostly working with stuff I had from my stash. I did buy a few extra balls towards the end to fill out some colors that I ran out of. And that's because as you're working around, especially in the later rows, it takes a lot of yarn to get around a row. Some of these rows would take more than a 50-gram ball of yarn. So if you're wanting to change colors every row and have that color be the same for the entire row, you need to really think about if you're going to have enough yarn to get all the way around. The other thing you might want to think about is the textures of your yarn as well, in that I really liked the sections where I put in yarn of a slightly different texture. So this was a nice cotton, which added a different sort of feel. The mohair in these rows was really cute, and I really like how that's mixed in. I like the little gold sparkles in the row with the hand-dyed sock yarn, which is nice. And I think if I was making it again, I might even look for some yarns that had even more different textures because I feel like it adds a real feel to these sort of scrappy blankets where you do want them to look a little bit different. That brings me to my next point in that I think you should think about what colors you want to use in your blanket before you start. That's what worked for me anyway. I really went in with a vision of wanting it to be a kind of witchy blanket, so I knew I wanted to work with the purples and the blues with some little accent colors of red, white, and the teal as well. I wanted it to look a little bit chaotic, that's why I chose to change colours every row, but I also like a bit of order too, so I tried to be a little bit mindful about how I placed these colours as I worked. And probably the last thing I would say is, yes, it's called the 6-day blanket, but as we went over before, one of this size wasn't really intended to be made in 6 days, so please don't feel like you have to rush it and get it all done. It's a really fun project to work on. It'd be a nice one to have just sort of on the go that you could work on from time to time, do a row here or a row there, and just have fun with it because it really was a fun project to work on. I'm so glad I did it. And I've even got a bunch of yarn left over, so I think I might make some matching ones for my cats, which will be adorable. I think I'm mostly going to keep it on my bed, but I also like how it looks over the back of a couch. So I think it's going to be one of those blankets that just comes around the whole house with me. Hope you had fun watching this video. If you did, give me a subscribe and you will be kept up to date with whatever I choose to make next. Thanks for watching. Bye.